Alright, so let's go over these. You guys have had about your 10 minutes to go ahead and look over this. So let's go ahead and try to solve it. Alright, looking at the first one. So it says, what is the kinetic energy when a toy car is traveling with the velocity of 4 meters per second and has a mass of 1,120 grams? So remember I told you guys we need to keep track of our units, right? So we have to make sure we remember what each thing is. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at everything that I have available to me. So I see that I have a mass of 1,120 grams, and then I see meters per second, and I have velocity here, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and make my t-chart. I'm going to write down the formula first. So KE equals 1/2 mv squared. And then I make my little t-chart. And then I have given on this side. Given, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start filling everything in, right? So I'm going to rewrite the formula over here. We have KE, 1/2 stays, we have M, and we have V, because we're only putting our variables on this side, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and fill this in. We have a velocity of 4 meters per second, so I'm going to put 4 meters per second right here. And it has a mass of 1,120 grams. And so that means KE is what we're looking for. So we're going to come over on this side and we're going to start filling everything in. So KE, we know we're looking for that, so we can leave that here. Equals, our 1/2 is going to stay here too. 1/2 M. I'm going to go ahead and put 1,120. V, we have 4 squared, right? So the first thing I'm going to do with my calculator is I usually like to calculate these first, right? PEMDAS, right? All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this down here. And while I'm down here, I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. And I'm going to turn this 1/2 into its decimal equivalent, which is 0.5. That's just going to make it like 5 million times easier for me to plug this into the calculator. Then I'm going to go ahead and put this number here, 1,000. And then 4 squared. Oh, my calculator's turned off on me. 4 squared. 16. Oh, I should have known better. I was supposed to memorize that, right? Okay. Anyway, alright, and now we want to go ahead and multiply all these together. So I have 0.5 times 1,120 times 16, and my answer is KE equals 8,960. Don't forget our units, joules. Okay, so that should be the answer that you got for number 1. Alright, now let's move on to number 2. So you have an automatic door closing 0.2 meters per second with a kinetic energy of 1.6 joules, right? So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to look for what I have. I see I have kinetic energy of 1.6 joules, because I know joules is going with energy. And meters per second, it doesn't tell me what this is, but I know that meters per second stands for velocity, so I can go ahead and put a V right there. Just to make my life easier, I'm going to go ahead and put my KE here too, just while I'm here. Okay, now we're going to make the t-chart. So again, writing our formula down. KE equals 1/2 mv squared. If you want to go ahead and put 0.5 mv squared, that's totally fine. I had just had it memorized as 1/2 mv squared, so that's usually just how I write it off the top of my head, but then, you know, I always change it. So if you want to just go ahead and skip that little brain step and go ahead and put 0.5 mv squared, go for it. Alright, and then we have givens on this side. So again, we have KE, we have M, and we have V. Okay, so we know our KE is 1.6 joules. And then I know that my velocity is 0.2 meters per second, which means I don't know what the M is. So we're going to find that now. Okay, so let's come over here. So we have 1.6. I'm just plugging them in. 1.6 equals, I'm going to go ahead and transfer that 1/2 to a 0.5. just, again, to make my life easier. That's what we're all about. We're just making life easier. We're going to leave m here. And then v is 0.2 squared. Again, first things first, we're going to definitely make sure we take care of this. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring everything else down. 1.6 equals, I'm just going to make this 0.5 m, and then 2 squared is 4. Keep y'all in your little bubbles. Yeah, I leave everything separated so that I don't make mistakes. I was a terrible math student for like basically all my life still. So I have to make sure that I keep everything separated, because that was like one of my biggest mistakes. Is I was always like rushing and throwing everything in the calculator as fast as I could, because I just wanted to be done with the math as soon as possible. But when you start slowing things down, then it kind of helps you separate everything out and helps your brain organize things. And I realized that I got less questions wrong. So this is just how I do it, but just thought I'd help you guys out a little bit. So I have 0.5 times 4, well, 1/2 of 4, so 2. So 1.6 equals 2m, and then, you know, math, we divide both sides by 2. 1.6 divided by 2 is 0.8 grams. We're going to assume it's grams. No, I probably shouldn't assume. Alright, for my mass. So you should get 0.8 as your answer for your mass for number 2. Okay, so now let's look at number 3. So we have a bird flying, let me move this, a bird flying towards its nest with a mass of 0.25 kilograms and a kinetic energy of 40.5 joules. So let's go ahead and make our T-chart. We have KE equals, I'm going to go ahead and put 0.5 here, mv squared, T-chart, and then we have given, right? Okay, so we're going to rewrite these. KE equals, M equals, and V equals, right? So we have KE over here. I feel like writing in red. Alright, so you have KE is 40.5 joules, and we have a mass of 0.25 kilograms. Now, we don't know what velocity is, so we know this is what we have to find. It's right in green. So we have KE equals, oops, we can actually write out KE, huh? So in the flow of writing the formula. Alright, so KE we have 40.5 equals 0.5. I'm going to put them back in little brackets. M 0.25, and then we just have V squared just there in the corner. Alright, so we're not going to worry about this right now. We'll worry about that later. I want to do the easiest stuff first, because we always want to start off as easy as possible, right? So I'm going to go ahead and multiply these two together. So I have 0.5. My calculator keeps like turning off on me. I think the battery's dying. Anyway, we have 0.5 times 0.25, which equals 0.125. That's staying in this little bracket. V squared, and we still have 40.5. Now, my next step, again, I want to make things as easy as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and keep handling the numbers. So I'm going to move this. The only way to move this from multiplication is we divide. Whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other. So we have 0.125 divided by 0.125. That gives me, let's see, 40.5 times 0.125. Alright, that gives me, whoa, let me double check that. I did multiply, haha. I'm supposed to divide by 0.125. I was like, that number doesn't look right. Alright, it is 324 equals V squared. Now, we have a square. To get rid of a square, or the opposite of a square is a square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides of the equal sign. So squared, that gives me 18 is v? My velocity is 18 meters per second. So I'd write something like this. And that's it. That's how you solve those 3 questions.